Region, 110,860 sq kilometers, lightly less rather than Pennsylvania. People, 11,147,407, July 2017. Establish. Middle year, 41.5 year equity, Havana ethnical groups, whites 64.1%, Métis 26.6%, dark 9.3%, 2012 EST. GDP, procurement force PAR, $132.9 trillion, 2016 EST. GDP per capita, $11,900, 2016 EST. Joblessness, 2.2%, 2017 EST, on to formal figures. Informal estimation is dual how quantity. Some facts/U. Before the crash of the Soviets Association in the previous 1990s, Cuba was reception subsidies cost $4 trillion, $6 trillion a year. In financial 2016, the U.S. shore guardsmen detained 5,263 from Cuba migrants at Ocean. Timescale/U. 1492, researcher Christopher Columbus lands on the Isle of Cuba and claims it for Spain. Spain controls the isle before 1898, manufacturing it a hub for the slavery, trading and the exportable of blood sugar and coffee. 1898, the joint state assists Cubans in winter autonomy of Spain for the Spanish-American warfare. The Contract of Paris gives the U.S. interim monitoring of Cuba. 1902, Cuba reached autonomy of the joint state. 1903, the new Republic of Cuba leases 45 box miles of earth in Guantanamo Bay to the joint state for building of a marine plant. House on the marine plant begins how identical year. 1952, ex-CEO Fulgencio Batista stages a coup in the supporting of the troop, and assumes force. October 16, 1953, Castro is condemned to 15 years in jail. December 2, 1956, 82 penal servitude earth in Cuba, on a boat mentioned Grandma. Largest are annihilated once. The survivors, consisting the Castros, run to the mountain range Maestro Mountains. For 1957 to 1958, they wages a partisan campaigning of the basis, that includes skirmishes in by the government, military and flaming blood sugar cereal. January 1, 1959, Batista is ousted by Castro's forces. 1960, Cuba nationalizes about $1 trillion of US-owned characteristic on the isle. In answer, the joint state places a trading ban on Cuba. January 1961, the joint state and Cuba end tactful relations. 1977, the U.S. Interests chapter in Havana is outdoor. April-September 1980, Fidel Castro allows nobody who wants to keep Cuba to easily leave of the seaport of Mariel. About 124,000 from Cuba migrants come the joint state. October 1983, U.S. military intrude the Caribbean Isle of Grenada, following a team of war commanders verified in Cuba phase a coup. 1994, the joint state and Cuba mark an treaty intended to stop the stream of illicit aliens of Cuba to the U.S. September 1998, 10 human beings are detained in Florida and loaded in espionage for the from Cuba by the government. The penal appeal alleges the 8 men and 2 female tested to penetrate from Cuba expulsion groups and U.S. war installations. 5 of the defendants are after identified as from Cuba intellect commanders Ruben Campa, aka Fernando Gonzalez, Rene Gonzalez, Gerardo Hernandez, Luis Medina, aka Ramon Labanino, and Antonio Guerrero. 1999, CEO Clinton eases journey restrictions to Cuba. August 2005, the 11th chain trial of appeals in Atlanta overturns the espionage convictions of the from Cuba 5. The governing is reversed in August 2006. July 31, 2006, a declaration recite on From Cuba TV announces how Fidel Castro is exposed intestinal surgical and has temporarily presented above force to his junior sibling, Raul. February 19, 2008, due to sick public health, Fidel Castro announces his retire as CEO in an email published in the medium of the overnight on the internet release of Cuba's country-run paper, Granma. February 24, 2008, Raúl Castro is selected by Cuba's domestic gathering to be the nation's new CEO. October 2011, a term of the From Cuba 5, René González, is liberated on internship following serving 13 years in jail. February 24, 2013, Raúl Castro is de-elected to a other 5-year period. After for a popularly televised speaking, Castro announces how he will move downward of force in 2018 while his period is above. February 2014, a From Cuba 5 term Ruben Campa, aka Fernando González, is liberated of jail following serving more than rather than 15 years. April 11, 2015, and a many decades-long stopping in US-Cuba relations, CEO Raúl Castro meets in time for the Summit Conference of the Americas in his US copy, Barack Obama. At first period the two nations' top leaders include set downward for main negotiations in more than rather than 50 years. April 14, 2015, CEO Obama recommends how Cuba be remote of the U.S. by the government's listing of country sponsors of terror. January 12, 2016, the first team of From Cuba migrants foliage Costa Rica for El Salvador on their way to Mexico. One day in Mexico, the migrants are on their own to try passageway to the joint state. March 15, 2016, the U.S. Exchequer Division announces a future loosening of restrictions, that includes enabling U.S. travelers to attract in-person education tours of Cuba. Efficient on March 16, Cuba and the joint state will restart mail facility, almost many decades following Straight Post facility was aborted. August 31, 2016, the first straight U.S. business flying of Fortress Lauderdale, Florida to Cuba touches downward in Santa Clara. JetBlue Flying 387 is the first in above 50 years to conduct passengers to the Isle with CEO Barack Obama's ad to re-engage in Cuba.